Hello everyone and welcome back to the UConn Huskies Dynasty. In the last episode, UConn lost kind of a gut-wrenching game versus Tennessee at home. 41-23, Tennessee went on to dominate Oklahoma State as well, so we didn't have any Big 12 teams make the top 4. So now it's officially time for the offseason, but let's do a quick season recap. If we take a look at the schedule, you'll of course see this home force win against North Texas. I played this actual game for an episode, but then had some save issues, had to reload a save, and instead of replaying the whole game, I just did the force win, really no big deal. Lost to Arkansas, and then beat UAB, lost to Cincinnati, so started 2-2. We've gotten off to slow starts in back-to-back seasons, but then went on an absolute tear, including a shutout victory, 44-0 against Iowa State, beating a ton of really good opponents. West Virginia was ranked at the time. Kansas State finished top 10 and was in the playoffs. We ultimately beat Auburn and then ended up in the conference championship game, losing 31-27 to Oklahoma State, and then losing to Tennessee, of course, in the playoffs at home. So here's the final stats on the season for everyone. Cole Welliver just short of 3,000 yards, but had a really, really good season. 65% completion percentage, 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It was a really good year for Cole Welliver. If he decides to stay, he will probably be the starter going into next season. He does have impact development, so he does develop a little bit faster than others, and he's not quite at his ratings cap, so he should hopefully see a pretty good upgrade this season. We do, of course, have the number 2 player in the country, John Pelshak, coming in, the 5-star recruit out of Connecticut. And of course, there's Neil Powell, who really wasn't great when he came in. I threw a lot of interceptions with him for whatever reason, but he could see some huge improvements as well, and he's more of a scrambler type, so we'll see. We might have a little bit of a quarterback controversy next season. Darrell Robinson, the start of his year was incredible. There was a little while there where I thought maybe he'd contend for a Heisman. Didn't quite have that level of year, but still had a very, very good one. 1,400 yards, 12 touchdowns on the season, fumbling only the one time. Max Cadet was an okay switch up, did have 4 touchdowns. Seems like he's going to be a pretty good red zone back. He's a power back, but with good speed. Did have some fumbling issues, though. It's only listed as 2. I believe it was more, because I think it only lists the fumbles that you lose. And then we kind of discovered late in the season that Dan Boyd might be a pretty good elusive back option for the graduating Robinson, so he may take over as an elusive back for him. We'll kind of see how those upgrades go. For receiving, Dorian Tobin ends up being the only 1,000-yard receiver. He hits that milestone during that game against Tennessee. Took over Shamar Porter as the wide receiver 1, definitely kind of later in the season. His ability with the deep ball and Cole Welliver being so elite with the deep ball was just a lethal combo, so I'm not surprised. I do wish we had gotten Porter a little bit more involved in his senior season. He did lead the team in receptions, though, and did have double-digit touchdowns, but his last several games in particular were very quiet. Really unfortunate. He was obviously a great player for us for a long time. It's just that kind of with that emergence of Tobin, you just can't ignore a guy like him with that level of speed and with the deep ball that Welliver's able to throw. Also had a little bit of an emergence late in the season from Dalton Schmizniak. Ended up being a great deep threat as well, despite not being quite as fast as Porter or Tobin, but his release off the line is maybe the best on the team. Ended up with 6 touchdown grabs, didn't play a lot in the first half of the season. Marcus Angler also doing a lot better in the second half of the year, getting up over 400 yards. Only had the 1 touchdown, though. Definitely a much better season in his freshman year. And then Jackson Harper, another senior that's going to graduate, was never really super involved in the offense. He really only came in on one particular play that got him the bulk of his catches on a drag route. Robinson was a pretty good receiving threat. Terry Overhauser was a little disappointed in, did not see him get open very often when he was in as the sort of wide receiver 3 before Schmizniak took over. On the contrary, Schmizniak was open like all the time, and I think that's because he's a much better route runner, and Overhauser is sort of like a Walmart Dorian Tobin, where he's not quite as fast, but still very fast, so a good deep threat option if we need him. And then Dan Sanders in his freshman year, only 14 grabs. It felt like it was a lot more than that. I feel like he was more involved, but only 14 catches for him. For blocking, Ben Morawski, who was actually by far our best offensive lineman in terms of overall, allowed the most sacks with 6. Defensively, Raheem Lovelace, Joey Terrell, and Cam Chadwick all over 100 tackles on the season. Lovelace leading with 109, and then Terrell with 106 and 105. Solo tackles leader is Lovelace, Terrell, and Chadwick. These were our top 3 defensive players. This is not surprising. TFLs, Lovelace, Terrell, 23 and 22. Leader in sacks was Corin Daly with 7.5. Lovelace ended up with 6 as a linebacker, a middle linebacker, which is super impressive. Logan Stern, despite tearing, I think it was his pectoral, around just past the halfway point of the season, still finished with the second most sacks on the team, tied with Raheem Lovelace. McNulty with 4.5 didn't play a lot in the first half of the season, but the defense just seems to play better when he's on the field. I don't know what it is about the guy. Like, he may not have the most flashy stats, he might not get a ton of sacks, but when he's on the field, the defensive line in general just plays better. I don't know why that is, but it's a real thing. Joey Terrell led the team in interceptions with 4. Chadwick had 3, Butts 2, Santos 2, Hutchison 1, Hepburn 1. I feel like Lovelace, if he didn't have bricks for hands, could have had like 7. He had so many dropped interceptions this year. And then George Kiki, another situation, kind of bricks for hands, had a lot of opportunities for picks. He is a guy who I think played a lot better in the second half of the season. He, of course, has elite development, could become a very, very good player. Haven't really seen that just yet. He does have a somewhat lowered skill cap on his man coverage ratings. Leader in deflections, we have so many guys with 8, Lovelace, Chadwick, Hutchison, and Santos, all with 8, Kiki with 7. Santos, though, allowed by far the most catches with 7, but also he played against the best receivers most of the time. Raheem Lovelace led the team with forced fumbles with 2, Stern, Chadwick, and Kiki each with 1. Fumbles recovered, Chadwick, Terrell, McNulty, and Alan Swan with 1. And guys who scored defensive touchdowns, Joey Terrell had 2 of them, and Cam Chadwick had the 1. We did not force, actually we did force 1 safety this season. It was Johnny McNulty. If we look at team stats, specifically in the Big 12, we had the best offense in the Big 12. Passing offense, we were 5th, but I'm guessing our rushing offense was 1st. It was indeed. We averaged the 3rd most points per game behind Cincinnati and Utah. We had the 6th most passing touchdowns at 37, and then the 5th most rushing touchdowns at 19. Just a very efficient offense, to be honest with you. And then we led in first downs by almost 100 to Colorado. Yeah, we did not have to punt often. Defensively, though, I think this is where we're going to be horrible. Yeah, we are the worst defense by a significant margin in the Big 12. We allowed the 2nd most points in the conference. Our pass defense was the worst. Our rush defense, the 2nd worst. We were top 5 in sacks, though, and it looks like we're middle to bottom of the pack in fumbles forced, and we're about middle of the pack in interceptions. We had the best 3rd down percentage in the Big 12 at 51%, so more than half the time we were converting 3rd downs. Our 4th down percentage, not quite as good, but still on the top end of the Big 12, and we only went for 1 2-point conversion on the whole season, and we failed. In terms of red zone efficiency, we were actually one of the least efficient red zone offenses, only getting points 41% of the time, which doesn't feel right, but you know, I'll take their word for it. We, as always, had the least amount of penalties called on us. This is just how the game works with EA. The user does not get penalties, but the simulation does. By the way, we had a negative turnover differential this season, -5. So to be as good as we were and not win turnover battles is a pretty good sign, to be honest, because if we can just flip this, then we'll be good to go. We'll take a look and see if anyone broke any records. And you know what? Cole Welliver did early in the season, broke a single game record for UConn with 463 passing yards here in 2027. So we've got a new record holder there. He also broke the record for passing touchdowns in a single game with 6. In terms of single season records, we did have Dorian Tobin break the single season touchdown record. I believe this was previously held by TJ Sheffield from season number 1. So Tobin takes it over with 16 touchdown grabs, which is insane because he wasn't even a wide receiver to start the season. He was QB1 for like the first 3 or 4 games. And then Shamar Porter does leave UConn with the career record with touchdown grabs at 30. So big congrats to our main man, Shamar Porter. As for award winners, Player of the Year is Callum Brink. We'll mostly just be looking for our own players here. Best defensive player, we did have Joey Terrell and Raheem Lovelace at 4th and 6th, respectively. Best defensive back, of course, was Cam Chadwick. No other Huskies here. Best running back, Darrell Robinson wins that. Best receiver, I doubt we have anyone here. Nobody had a big enough year. Maybe if Tobin had been a receiver from the start. Of course, we mentioned the best linebacker award before. We had the number 1 and number 3 guys in Terrell and Lovelace. Unfortunately, Zach Costanzo does not win the best kicker award, despite having honestly a pretty good season. And Terry Overhauser won the best returner of the year. For All-Americans, Darrell Robinson is the RB1 All-American, and he is the only UConn Husky to be a first-team All-American, which is surprising considering we had the best middle linebackers in the country. For the second team, however, again, no Huskies. Very surprising. The freshman team, Tobin, does make it as a receiver, but nobody for UConn defensively. For the all Big 12 first team, Robinson is here, but nobody else. I don't understand how these work. Tobin is here for the second team, and again, nobody else. I don't understand how Joey Terrell wins Best Linebacker of the Year and doesn't even make Big 12 first or second team. For freshmen, it's Tobin Schmizniak and actually Ted Booth, a tackle that played maybe a couple times, wins for the freshmen. I guess there was just no other left tackles to award it to. And then here's a look at the bracket. The top four yet to play: Texas versus USC and Georgia versus Tennessee. Connor Clinton, the right guard out of Virginia, decides to commit to UConn. And it's going to be Georgia versus USC in the national championship. So Tennessee makes us look a little silly, makes Oklahoma State look stupid, but then kind of gets dominated by the Bulldogs. 31-13 being the final there, and it'll be Georgia and USC. So no Cinderella runs this time. Of course, if you remember last season, UAB went on a Cinderella run and actually won the national title game. So we advance one more time. We have actually nobody currently that is at transfer risk, which is shocking. And Georgia has defeated USC 35-30 in the national championship, and the Bulldogs are champions once again. So things return to normal here in year number 4. Had a crazy winner with UAB in year number 3, but not this time. A very normal winner in the Georgia Bulldogs. And for some reason, I couldn't look at it before, but here is the Heisman race. It was actually won by a receiver, Joshua Smith of Tulsa, ends up winning the Heisman. Callum Brink, the sophomore quarterback, finishes second. It's actually only an 85 overall. And really quick, I'll just show you the final conference standings now that we are officially done in each conference. Feel free to pause and take a look. Tulsa, of course, winning the American. In the Big 12, it's Oklahoma State there, us in second. Worst team here was Iowa State, going 4-8. Big 10 won by USC, and then Nebraska looks like they were the second best team. The big dogs in like Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all kind of having down years. 9-4, still pretty good for Penn State. Conference USA, which is of course tiny now. Middle Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, top dogs there. Notre Dame goes 9-4 in the MAC. Bowling Green wins it there. Kent State 1-11 at the very bottom. In the Mountain West, it's UTEP and New Mexico. I believe it was New Mexico that ended up winning the conference. Fresno State versus Oregon State in the Pac-12 championship, where Oregon State gets the victory. And in the SEC, Georgia, of course, winning the Natty. But I believe it was actually Texas that won the conference championship. And in the Sun Belt, it was South Alabama going undefeated, just miles ahead of everyone else. And then also we'll scroll through, see who won any bowl games. Utah absolutely killing Air Force. How did Air Force even get that? They went 7-5 and had to play 10, or at the time, 9-3 Utah, who is ranked and just narrowly missed a college football playoff bid. Auburn dominates Maryland. Clemson barely beating Wisconsin. Pittsburgh kills App State. I'll scroll through these really quick, see if there's any big upsets worth mentioning. Colorado, who beat Ohio State earlier in the year, able to beat LSU in the Texas Bowl. Michigan dominating Syracuse in the Alamo Bowl. UMass loses the 68 Ventures Bowl to Marshall. Penn State just barely beats Wyoming in the LA Bowl. UAB gets another bowl win. They actually finished 6-6 in the regular season, but beat Oregon in that bowl game. Hey, Kennesaw State, I just noticed, got a bowl game this year, and they lose it, unfortunately, to San Diego State, but some improvements for Kennesaw State. And then Alabama crushing Texas State in the Hawaii Bowl. Alabama, by the way, 7-6. What a terrible year for the Crimson Tide. And with that, I believe we are ready to advance. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. If I did, let me know in the comments below, and I'll look out for it in future off seasons. But we shall advance. And now we can look at players leaving. So nobody is transferring, which is excellent to see. Darrell Robinson got drafted in the 4th round. Congratulations to him. Porter is just graduating. Unfortunately, didn't get drafted. I really thought he would. Chadwick not drafted. Morosky not drafted. So it's only Robinson who goes pro, getting drafted in round 4, which is a significant projected round. I thought maybe Raheem Lovelace would be leaving, honestly. Like, he's like a 90 overall as a junior, so I wouldn't have been entirely shocked if he had attempted to go pro, but not this time. And I have decided to spend officially the 20 points I had in Motivator. So I'm now to tier 3 for quarterbacks, running backs, linebackers, and defensive backs, which means they will all get an off-season training boost, which we especially need in the running back department, because with Robinson leaving, I don't know that there's a clear number 1 currently. I think the argument is probably Max Cadet. And just a quick goodbye to some of the best players that we're losing this season: Darrell Robinson, Shamar Porter, Ben Morosky, Torian Johnson, Cam Chadwick, Ty Polk didn't play a lot, Cleto Troll kind of lost his job, Kiernan didn't play, Stern got injured, would have played a lot, Harper didn't play a ton, and we didn't even see Travion Wright, who was a transfer really at any point this season. But a quick salute to those we're losing. So we advance the week and we are to the transfer portal. So let's see what players are available. There's really only one guy that we can get. That's Clyde Nowak. We can get a bunch of 2-star guys. I'm not really interested in getting 2-star guys. I'm really not that interested in getting an edge rusher, but if a 4-star guy from Ohio State is interested, and he's only a freshman, then I don't mind. He'd be a sophomore next season. He is legit the only 4-star with any interest whatsoever. So I'm not going to go after the corner Antonio Rager. I think we are going to go after Clyde, though. We already have most of our guys committed, a few 5-stars even, in Sean Bosby, the free safety, John Pelshak, the quarterback, and the defensive tackle, Darren Michelle. And some of these guys might be day 1 starters, remains to be seen. Nowak is huge. I imagine we could potentially move him to D tackle, and then another free safety in Justice Willis that we're going after, and a tight end in Shaq Metcalf. And honestly, even though we have a ton of points, I think this is all we're going to do. I am going to scout these guys at this point. Maybe we'll learn that they're horrible. To me, it looks like Clyde Nowak is very good. Justice Willis is actually a gem, I have just learned. And then Shaq Metcalf. 82 speed is all right for a tight end. He doesn't seem like anything super special, but he seems decent enough. So I've maxed out points for the 3 guys we're still pursuing and scheduled a visit for all 3. The only other thing I'll do is just check if there are any wide receivers at this point that are maybe 4 stars and still available. Guys, I just found Ronald McDonald in the 3-star receivers. I gotta add him to the board. Don't worry, I won't be offering all of these guys. I do just want to scout them. We have a ton of points, so we might as well. And if there's anyone that really catches our eye, we can pursue them. Assad Paris actually doesn't seem terrible with that 93 speed at 6'4". And of course, got to scout my guy Ronald McDonald. Are you kidding me? He is super slow and he's only 5'10". As much as I love the name Ronald McDonald, he's not a gem. He's slow. It says he's a route runner type, but his short route running and medium route running is 75 and 67. Just put the fries in the bag, buddy. David Gastineau is a gem, a 3-star gem. 6'2" physical wide receiver, has good spec catch, decent speed, decent jumping, decent acceleration, and Gideon Yuki is a bust, so we will remove him. So I decided to spend all of my points scouting more players just to see if I could find any gems. I did find a kicker in Russ Schuler, who is a gem. Somebody in the comments very early on this season mentioned possibly getting a kicker since Costanzo's going into his senior season and doesn't have that great of a leg to begin with. So, I mean, finding a gem kicker is nice. There's another receiver in David Gastineau, who is a gem, and then a gem athlete in Keenan Ham. And I believe that agile tendency means he is a guard, most likely, or potentially a tackle, some type of offensive lineman, presumably. And so we are pursuing these guys. I did take some points off of like Shaquille Metcalf and off of Gastineau, who I originally had up to 65, just to make sure that we can get on the board of all of these guys. So we'll see how things go. And I think this will be just about everyone. I might spend points on future weeks scouting more and more players just to see if you can find a diamond in the rough here or there. But I really don't want to go super overboard on recruiting this season. Draft results are in, by the way, and Darrell Robinson gets drafted in the the 3rd round. Justice Willis, the 4-star gem free safety, has committed. Wow, Syracuse big in on Clyde Nowak. With Clyde, I am taking a bit of a gamble in hoping that his other interest is conference prestige. It's our best hard sell. I think it was 2 options, and the other one includes athletic facilities, which is a C-. If we're right, we're more likely to get more points and potentially catch up to Syracuse. If we're wrong, we were going to probably lose him anyway. So I have maxed out points everywhere. There's really not guys left to scout, to be honest with you. Most of the 3-stars are into their top 8 and won't even consider another team. And then I just don't think a 2-star is worth it, even if they are a gem at this point. I think a 3-star is about the lowest we can afford to go. So I'm just not going to spend any more points. And if you're curious, there are absolutely no 4 or 5 stars available at all. So we'll advance the week, see how it goes. I think we're probably going to lose Clyde to Syracuse, and Shaq Metcalf commits to LSU as well. Well, that sucks. I wasn't even slightly worried about losing him. We've actually taken the lead for Clyde. I don't know how we lost Shaquille Metcalf to LSU. We just cannot get a tight end on this team. We'll remove him from the board. We gained more influence than Minnesota on Keenan Ham, and we are in first with Clyde, so we might actually get Clyde Novak. I'm going to guess his name is pronounced Novak, by the way, although it is a created player, so who knows. So because I can't seem to get a tight end to commit to save my life, I've added 2 more to the board. One of them is a gem in Dion Kadu. I don't love blocking tendency type tight ends, so I have also gone after Randy Ty, who is an athlete. I can't actually see his speed, unfortunately, but he does have 80 acceleration, and the fact that he's an athlete makes him a little bit more valuable despite not being a gem, so we're going after him as well. And then we've also scheduled a visit for week 3 for David Gastineau, the gem wide receiver. So we'll advance the week again, see how things continue to progress. And Clyde Novak has committed to UConn, so we've got a lot of defensive line help this upcoming season. Definitely move things around. He may switch to D tackle. We shall see, but we've of course got Adonis Keough, Johnny McNulty, D'Angelo Townsend, who is normally an outside linebacker, was a pretty good edge rusher all year. And then a few other recruits that we've got as well. Arkansas wants Dion Kadu badly, taking a huge leap on him. We are currently just in second, but I believe previously we weren't on his board at all, so we may see a bigger influence jump next week. We're first on the kicker, Russ Schuler. We are first on the receiver, David Gastineau. And we are first, but only just, on Keenan Ham, the offensive lineman athlete. And we have now scheduled Keenan Ham for a visit. We have also scheduled the kicker Russ Schuler for a visit. Not that we really necessarily needed to, but we have the points. Why not spend them? And for now, that's really all we can do. Still just kind of playing that waiting game. We advance the week again, and the wide receiver, David Gastineau from Spring, Texas, has committed to the UConn Huskies. Randy Ty, the tight end, has committed, and that is it so far. We lose Dion Kadu to Arkansas. What is up with me and not being able to get tight ends? So here is the official National Signing Day. We, of course, lost Dion Kadu, but we got everyone else. We got Schuler, we got Gastineau, we got Ham, and we got Ty. We, of course, got Clyde, Willis, Tyquan Zachary, Greg Bjornson. A really good recruiting class, to be honest with you. 3 5-stars, a bunch of really good 4-stars, a few gems mixed in, and a few 3-stars just to fill some gaps in the lineups. But I feel really good about this class. I wonder where we rank. We have the 6th best class in the country, which is absurd. And it's a small class too. A lot of other teams filling a ton of spots. We've got a total of 33, 34, 35, and 30 from a lot of these top 5 teams. And then we only got 23 guys. That is good for best in the Big 12, followed by Kansas State, West Virginia, Utah, and Baylor. But only 2 of us are in the top 20. That's UConn and K-State, who appear to be showing that they are maybe the top teams in the Big 12. I know Oklahoma State obviously just won the Big 12 championship, but their recruiting class is not the best. 44th in the country is still pretty good, but definitely falling behind us in K-State. And now it's time we can officially see their development traits. So Randy Ty, normal. We've got star for Russ Schuler, the kicker, which is awesome. He's not going to play next season. He'll be redshirted, but great to see that we'll have a kicker that hopefully should improve and be quite a bit better than Costanzo. David Gastineau has star development. Impact for Keenan Ham. Star for Clyde Novak. I'm feeling really good about this recruiting class. Elite for the 4-star gem safety, Justice Willis. Willis. Normal for Taekwon Zachary, normal for Greg Bjornson, normal for Bill Hogue. Impact for the right guard Connor Clinton. Normal for Leo Apple. Star for AJ Kunazik, another guard. Impact for the halfback Matthew Bryant. Star for the athlete edge rusher Terrence Cook. Star for the wide receiver Jeffrey Ritchie. Impact for Quincy Hammer. Elite for Darren Michelle. We have yet to get an elite player on the offensive side of the ball, but our defense is chock full of them. You've got two middle linebackers in Raheem Lovelace and Dennis Colin. You've got the two corners in Jamie Santos and George Kiki. You've got the safety in Justice Willis. And now you've got a D tackle in Darren Michelle, who has elite development. Plus, he's a 5-star. John Pelshak, scratch what I just said. First elite recruit is the quarterback, John Pelshak. I don't know if this changes your opinion. I sort of think he might need to start right away. Impact for our other 5-star guy in safety, Sean Bosby. Impact for Frank Davis. Star for Kevin October, another 4-star gem edge rusher. Only normal for the corner, Randy Radovich, and normal for right tackle, Greg Claypool. No wonder, despite the low amount of recruits, we had such a good recruiting class. We had 3 elite players and a bunch of stars. A lot of impacts and not a ton of normals. A lot of impact plus in this recruiting class. Just an incredible recruiting class. Easily the best we have had in the series. Wow, what a recruiting class for the UConn Huskies. Now it's also time to do position changes. This, of course, is not the final overall of the team. We'll see the overalls improve. I really thought Pelshak would be a higher overall as a 5-star. I've seen some 5-stars come in as high as like an 85, but I guess it's not the case for quarterbacks. So maybe Pelshak won't start right away, but he does have decent accuracies. We'll see what kind of improvements Powell and Welliver get. I would love to see a significant improvement for Chester Roach. If he doesn't see improvements, we're probably just going to have him transfer. Really no reason at this point to have him on the team. So let's pick where our athletes are going. Keenan Ham is an edge rusher or an offensive lineman. He does have 90 strength, but I do want to see these blocking attributes. Much better run blocker than he is a pass blocker at the moment. Obviously, no matter where we put this guy currently, he has no shot to be a starter. His finesse moves are quite strong at 75, and his block shedding's pretty good at 67. I think we're just too loaded at defensive line at the moment to have him there. So I'm going to make him an offensive lineman. I think for right now, we'll just go ahead and make him a right guard. So Terrence Cook is a power rusher archetype, and he just screams edge rusher to me. We can put him at right or left. It says he's better at left, and he'd be a speed rusher as a left end, whereas he'd be a power rusher as a right end. I think we're actually going to put him on the right side. It doesn't really matter either way. Greg Bjornson, another defensive lineman prospect, is another guy that is probably an end. We will just go ahead and put him at left end. And then the other athlete is Randy Ty, who we got as a tight end most likely. And I think that's just where we'll put him. I'm actually curious, what is his speed? 84, not bad. Yeah, definitely a tight end, I think. So I think I'm officially done changing any positions. I didn't change a ton of stuff. I moved some guys to various offensive line positions just to balance things out a bit more. And on the defensive line, you know, I moved like a D tackle like Evan Bingham over to left end because he's a speed rusher, makes a bit more sense. I did move D'Angelo Townsend officially to be an edge rusher. I think that's where he is just the best suited, especially with those 87 power moves. In fact, his finesse and block shedding really good as well. Although Clyde may be the starter. Although, what is he as a D tackle? This is actually a guy I didn't look at. He is an 83 overall D tackle. We're going to move Clyde to D tackle. I think I wanted to do that from the beginning. He becomes our top D tackle. For middle linebackers, Lovelace and Terrell stay, but I did decide to move Dennis Colin to outside linebacker. He is going to be the presumptive starter at right outside linebacker. Currently, Benji Butt is listed ahead of him, but this is before any upgrades have been seen. We are super weak at corner. I got to be honest. I need to focus a lot more on corner in this upcoming draft class. This is everyone we have at the moment. It's only 6 guys. Hopefully we don't see any significant injuries. Hepburn likely to be the new slot guy. Radovich, by the way, has 97 speed. Gross. He will probably play quite a bit here in his true freshman season. So Justice Willis is the guy with elite development. I decided to move him to strong safety and leave Bosby as the free safety, but they are almost certainly the two future safeties of this team. And we just have so much depth at edge rusher now. I'm not sure who's going to play. It's really going to depend on how upgrades go. Might have some position battles there, but right now it's looking like it's going to be D'Angelo Townsend and probably Johnny McNulty, although Adonis Keough is obviously very, very good. Kevin October coming in as a true freshman. Same with Terrence Cook. Very, very good. And then, of course, at D tackle, you've got Clyde Novak, who is insane. I'm also considering moving a guy like Addison Biggs to safety for a season. Biggs has been an outside linebacker. He's played very sparingly, but he has 96 play recognition. Super smart player, but he's a run stopper, right? You see his power moves, his finesse moves, not very good. His block shedding is decent though. And he does have decent man and zone coverage ratings. I think he could absolutely play as a safety. His catching's not great. Could also potentially move a guy like Gerard Byler to safety. He would be an 86 overall zone safety. Byler does have better hands though, and better zone coverage. Maybe that actually makes more sense. His catching is good, his jumping's better. His play recognition though is not as good, but he is a better tackler. If we could just combine them into one player, they'd be such an incredible safety. He does have better awareness though. We're going to move Gerard Byler to safety and probably play him there for this season, which means Addison Biggs will be promoted to starting at left outside linebacker, which is not a position that sees the field a ton, to be honest with you. And then to even things out a bit, I did move Siaki Toole over to left outside linebacker. So I think that's all I'm going to change for now. Let me know what you guys think. Could come back and change other things, but I think I'm feeling pretty good. It's looking like it'll probably be Robert Butts and Gerard Byler as the two safeties. Hutchison maybe losing his job. We'll see how upgrades go. So we will finally advance the week. Thought about that for entirely too long. And here are officially the training results. Guys, Raheem Lovelace is a 97 overall middle linebacker. Joey Terrell's a 92. Oh my God. Man, time flies. Raheem Lovelace, already a senior. This will be his final season as a Husky, almost certainly going to be drafted. Terrell might try to get drafted as well. Addison Biggs jumped to an 89. Gerard Byler's an 88. Townsend an 88. All right, let's go position by position. Welliver did not see huge upgrades. He is an 84. His throw power stayed the same, but still easily just the most accurate guy on the team. The medium and deep accuracy in particular is just incredible. I think unless something changes big time, that it's just going to be Welliver as the starter again. I do like Neil Powell. His deep accuracy isn't there. And I do like Calvin Plummer. Chester Roach, again, didn't really see any upgrades, which is super unfortunate. He has that star development. He is at his ratings cap with elusiveness, but his accuracy could see big moves. His power could still be brought up a bit. I don't know what happened to Chester Roach. I really thought when we got him that he'd kind of be the future, being that star development was there, but unfortunately not the case. So now here's a position I'm super curious about, and yeah, we are a lot weaker at halfback this year. Right now, it is Shaq McBath, currently expected to be the RB1. Max Cadet here as well, a little bit faster. McBath does have shifty as a physical ability, which is one of those abilities that allows them to make faster cuts. His break tackle is just horrible at 74. I think Cadet is probably HB1, and then McBath is the mix-up guy. Maybe Dan Boyd is that guy instead. I'm not sure, but we need to find a better halfback. I was really hoping we'd be able to get one in the transfer portal. Unfortunately, none were interested in coming to UConn. I couldn't even pursue any if I wanted to. So for all these seasons, we've had a great running back: Victor Rosa, Darrell Robinson, Cam Edwards. This is the first year where I really don't think that's the case. Like, we have good running backs. I don't think there's anyone here that is just straight up great until I'm proven otherwise. At wide receiver, Dorian Tobin sees the most increases, up to an 83 overall. So our weapons, I think, are more balanced, but they're not as good. We don't have a top end guy at halfback. We don't have a top end guy at wide receiver. And at tight end, Marcus Angler has fallen to 4th. And this was kind of expected. He is at his ratings maximum on everything. He does have the best speed of the tight ends on the team. Dan Sanders also basically at his ratings maximum. Charles Van Horn saw some of the most increases. He does have impact development, but now is also at his ratings maximum. So tight end, really weird position for us right now. Trey Keenan is officially a senior. He won't play, so we're going to let him transfer out probably. He's been at his maximum for a while. Yeah, our weapons just not great this year. Might have a weaker offense, but the defense, I think, is where this team is truly incredible. At left tackle, currently Ted Booth is an 81. Left guard, it's Blake Franks, who is an 84. Nolan Lindsay saw some good increases in his redshirt season, up to an 80. At center, Wayne Rourke is projected to be the starter at a 77. Is he at his ratings maximum? He's very close to his ratings maximum. We'll always move around this offensive line. We always do. Ehlers is an 82, and Jack Hines an 83, Manny Smith an 82. So Hines will probably play at left tackle, Smith at right tackle. Again, that's the setup we had last season, and it worked pretty well for the most part. They are really pretty balanced players, but especially good at pass blocking, which is, I think, mostly what you want your tackles to be really good at. And then Russ Ehlers has terrible pass block finesse, terrible finesse in general. I don't know if he'll play much. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But I think the defense is really where this team's going to be pretty crazy. Adonis Keough jumps all the way to an 80 overall. D'Angelo Townsend is now an 88 overall right end. I guess moving him here was the correct decision. That is gross. At defensive tackle, Calvin Whitaker and Clyde Novak, both 83s. I don't know if Michaud will see the field this season. We may redshirt him despite that elite development. Let me know what you think. And again, our linebackers just continue to be insane as Addison Biggs jumps up to an 89 overall. Middle linebacker, we've got 290 plus guys in Raheem Lovelace and Joey Terrell. And Dennis Colin jumps to an 84 at right outside linebacker. He'll definitely play at least a bit this season. Still just no improvements from these corners. I really expected a significant jump from Santos and Kiki, who played a lot last season. They just did not get it. Kiki still roughly the same, has the elite development, and Santos also roughly the same, has elite development. Hopefully they see a bigger improvement going into their senior seasons. Corner, one of our weaker positions on this team, however. Hepburn will play in the slot. I know he's our highest overall guy currently, but he's a little too slow to be on the outside edges. And I think Randy Radovich will see some playing time as well. His man coverage is pretty decent, but his zone coverage is terrible. It reminds me of George Kiki in his freshman year, who was absolutely horrific at zone coverage. I will say Santos still a very, very good man coverage guy with 91. So at free safety, Robert Butts saw basically no improvements. He is mostly at his ratings maximum, so that makes sense. He's currently in line to be the starter, but it might actually be Nate Putu or Daniel Hutchison who moves over there to take over. Putu jumps all the way up to an 82. He only has 84 speed, which is slower than Robert Butts, who has 88 speed, or maybe Nick Giuliano takes over. I'm not sure. Butts is a senior, so maybe we just give him the starting job. He was fine last year. He wasn't like incredible, but he was pretty good. No complaints. Obviously, at strong safety, it's Gerard Byler. He is an 88 overall. Zach Costanzo is an 82 overall kicker in his senior season. His kick power is 89. His accuracy is 84. I do plan to change his number this season. He's been wearing 13, which is the same as Welliver, which kind of bothers me. So he'll probably be like 39 or some really ugly number. And then Roger DeLuca in his junior year, 71 kick power, by the way. This is why our punt game is so bad. Maybe we just play Costanzo at both. I don't know. So an interesting year coming up for UConn. Definitely, I think the best this team has ever been, especially defensively. It looks like our defense in particular is going to be very, very good. The offense, though, does seem like it's maybe one of the weakest offenses we've had, maybe the weakest since season 1. Because I do think that Nick Evers in his best seasons was better than Welliver, despite Welliver having, you know, the incredible deep ball. We don't really have a top end running back. We don't really have a top end receiver. We have a bunch of good players, just not a lot of great players on this offense. So hopefully defense can play super well this year. We might be like a new Iowa. I decided to spend all of my points in tactician for my coach, and I went all in on the offensive line. I don't think we're seeing enough improvement from this O-line, and I want to see them get better game after game. So now let's advance the week and get into some conference realignment if we want to. And we can also encourage some transfers. And so this is always kind of a difficult thing to do, although we only have to send 11 guys away this season. And to be honest with you, I think it's time for Chester Roach to go. with Pelshak coming in and now being the future of this team, having the elite development trait, Roach has star, and I really did think that he was going to end up being a really good player for us. Just hasn't developed at all. We'll encourage him to transfer. He can go play at a smaller school, which is funny to say coming from UConn. Goodbye, Chester. Another guy we're going to send away that transferred to us last season actually is Edward McClinton. He's a senior wide receiver, but he's not going to play. At tight end, Trey Keenan needs to leave. And I know you guys aren't going to love this one, but another guy I think we have to send away, unfortunately, is Benji Butt. He's already a junior. Dennis Colin has taken over his spot on the team. Colin is only going to get better than him in seasons to come. Benji Butt, you have a fun name, but gotta let you go. Sorry, pal. I just realized I accidentally had my recording paused. You missed me sending Kevin Simonson, a sophomore free safety, away. And I'm kind of tempted to send Daniel Hutchison away. Gerard Byler, same grad class, a lot better than him now that he has moved to safety. Nate Putu, a grad class lower, is already better than him. And then we've, of course, got guys like Bosby, guys like Willis, that have star and elite development respectively, will quickly be taking over the position in the future. I know Hutchison was a starter for us last season, and he was pretty good for the most part. Made a few mistakes here and there. He was a good red zone guy, typically a good deep ball guy despite the error in the Tennessee game. He has the best zone coverage rating of any of our safeties, but I just don't think he's going to play, and I feel bad. He's a junior. He should transfer, go play somewhere else. Not going to think about it too much. Just make it happen. It is definitely a lot harder to send these guys away when you are the one who recruited them. It makes this a lot more difficult. Another guy I'm thinking about sending away is Brock Montgomery. I do think that he has a role on the team. He does have Platinum Shifty as a physical ability, which Dorian Tobin also has. And he is a very balanced route runner. He's listed as a deep threat, but he runs pretty good short and medium routes as well. I think that he's going to play a decent amount. I don't love Tevin Madu because his route running other than short is not very good. And Russ McLeod, sort of same situation, route running is bad other than short. Madu does have good release though. Montgomery, a little slow, but I think he'll very much fill a Jackson Harper type of role this season. I'm going to leave him. An offensive lineman I'm going to send away that continues to not see any improvement is Larry Adams. I know that that leaves us with a backup center who is a 61, but we always just move around the offensive line to fit whatever we need. I'm not that worried about it. He'll probably be the only offensive lineman I encourage to transfer. I'm going to send away Moses Newcomb, unfortunately. I do actually think he could contribute, honestly. He's got good block shedding, good power moves, good finesse moves, but we're just way too deep on the defensive line right now. There's really no clear path to playing time for him, especially behind Terrence Cook, behind Kevin October, and in the same class as Alani Sandridge. So Newcomb has to go. I always hate sending freshmen away, but I am going to encourage Gregory Dunbar to transfer. He's a power back, but he saw zero improvement at all between the last two seasons. So a 65 on a roster that's this deep at the moment is just not going to cut it. And halfback is going to be a huge position of need for recruiting in the next season or two. And I just don't see Gregory Dunbar making enough improvements to stay on the team. And then the last guy I think I'm going to let go is Tyler Fulton. He's a sophomore along with Osgood and Booth, already worse than Greg Claypool. Just doesn't make sense to keep him on the team. And that brings us down to 85. I did think about changing the conferences going into next season, but I think I'm going to leave it alone for now. I am considering making the Big 12 a little bit smaller by maybe moving some teams that continue to underperform out. So like BYU in this universe, I know BYU is incredible right now in real life, but in this universe, BYU has been bad year after year after year, and maybe the Big 12 will be sick of that. Maybe BYU goes back to being independent. Maybe this new look Pac-12 considers adding them. We'll wait one more year, see how things play out, and then maybe make the conference a little bit smaller. And we are officially into preseason of year number 5. A couple things I wanted to show you guys really quick before I end this episode. I did want to point out Joshua McCargo, who is a defensive end we lost out on. He is a 5-star gem edge rusher that we were unable to get, and he comes in at an 80 overall, and he has star development, so not quite the elite development I would have expected, but he is still incredible. And the other one I want to point out, and this hurts even more considering the state of our running back room currently, is the halfback that we didn't get, and that's Zach Nestrowitz, who comes in at a 78 and has elite development. Oh, brutal. Why do I subject myself to this? Why do I look? But I really wanted Zach Nestrowitz. Would have been huge. A 5-star gem running back with elite development, of course. Wouldn't have to be that worried about the running back room if he were on the team, but it is what it is. Only so much you can do. But I'll get this recruiting board set up. I'll get a custom schedule set up, and we'll prepare for season number 5. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and for the continued support as always. Consider joining the community Discord. There is a link to it in the description down below, and consider becoming a channel member by hitting that join button. You can do so for as low as $1 a month, and you can see benefits for different tiers as well. If you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that sub button for me. It does help me out a lot, and I will see you guys in the next episode where we'll get started in year number 5. It's playoffs or bust for the UConn Huskies.